Hello friends, welcome back, and today we are going to complete hypothesis testing. Last session, if you remember, I had given you an example of the notion of hypothesis testing, and today we are going to continue with the examples, but today we are going to discuss on the theory part of it. There are some terms, type 1, type 2 errors, customer risk and all those things. With two examples I will give you. So let's start. Suppose you are a manager in an organizations and you have to initiate a marketing campaign for one or two products. Let's take any one of the products. But before the launch of the product, you want to try it out with a campaign that which campaign should work best for this type of product. So suppose you have 3-4 options and you want to evaluate which one will work best in this case. So the objective of this campaign is, this is a prototype campaign sort of, and the objective is to find out which communication would work best. And before an investment of huge sum of dollars in the marketing campaigns, you want to ensure that this is the communication where we want to invest for rest of the season, right? So you want to evaluate which one will work first. So if we go back to our last session, the null and alternate hypothesis are, so here we are trying to prove that campaign is working. So the new statement what we are trying to achieve, and H0 is campaign is not working, it won't work, right? So unless until we have very concrete data to prove that null hypothesis or the campaign is not working, we cannot say it is working, right? That's how it is. So now we are not going into the results here because I had shared with you in the last example. Today we are going to talk on the theory part of it. The campaign result can be two outcomes, either it's working, it's not working. Let's take the first one. If it is working, if the campaign result is working, it is working, then, and we have assumed that it is working, then it's a correct decision. Let me repeat again. The campaign is actually working and we are saying also it is working, then it's a correct decision, right? But if the campaign is not working and we decided that yes, it is working, then it's a mistake for us, right? Going forward, if the campaign is again working and we decided that it is not working, it is a mistake. Similarly, if the campaign is not working and we decided it is working, it is not working, then we say it's a correct decision, right? So there are two areas where we have a correct decision and two areas where we have a mistakes, right? Now let's go to the theoretical part of it. Now when we go into a hypothesis testing, whatever is the testing result, if null hypothesis is true, that means whatever we are trying to prove is true and we have accepted that yes, the data says that, then it's a right decision. And similarly, if alternate hypothesis is true and we have considered that as true, then it is a right decision. But the problem comes when we accept null hypothesis when H1 is actually true, right? So that's a type 2 error. We call it type 2 error or beta error. Accept H1 when H0 is true, that is null hypothesis is true, that is a type 1 error, right? That is alpha. We call it alpha error. What are this type of error? At yellow belt level, I can give you a broad brief description on this, right? So type 1 error is something you reject null hypothesis all the way, null hypothesis is true. This is the same statement I repeated. But alpha risk, here the alpha risk is maximum probability of committing type 1 error, right? So we don't want to commit a type 1 error more than 5%. That's something in hypothesis testing. So if you go back to my earlier slides, earlier videos, I have selected 95% confidence interval, right? So I want this alpha risk to be only 5%, right? Similarly, beta risk is the probability of committing a type 2 error, right? It cannot be 0, there has to be some percentage here, it can be 0.01 or it can be 5%, right? Now, let me take you to another scenario and give you an example. Suppose we have a production assembly line, and after the products are produced, there are auditors at each level auditing the products before it goes out to the market, right? So, once there are few auditors who are checking all these products or the sample products, and they are saying yes to this. So, if it is yes, it goes to the customer. If it is a no, it goes back to the warehouse or their own rejection process. Within this, if you see, if there is one product which is wrongly selected. So, this product was a defective product, but it is wrongly selected. And similarly, if we have a good product which is selected as a rejected product, then what are the consequences, right? So, we have two scenarios. We have a product which is good, we have a product which is defective. Now, consumer accepts the product. What we have done is, we have two scenarios again. Consumer either will accept the product or consumer will reject the product. If consumer accept a good product, that is good, no issues in that. If consumer rejects a bad product, that is also good, there is no issues in that, right? But the problem is consumer accepts the product, but the product is defective here, right? So, it is a consumer risk. So, the consumer has accepted a bad product, then he is at risk. Now, consumer has rejected the product. So, now the product has to come back to entire manufacturing or the return process or warranty, whatever we can call, and hence it is a producer's risk, right? Now, if you see here, which one is the greatest risk we have, right? So, for example, if we go back to our scenario, type 1 and type 2 error, and go back to our scenario again. So, we have which one is the bigger risk? Producer's risk is okay, but if you have given a defective product to a consumer, then you might lose the customer, right? So, that is the biggest risk. So, beta risk is the biggest risk always, and alpha risk is something you can live with, but you cannot live with something like a beta risk, which is a consumer's risk, right? So, that is why if you go to green belt, if you have completed a green belt, you will know in depth about all these things, but for the time being at yellow belt level, this understanding is enough for you, right? So, that is the summary of hypothesis testing. We have type 1 error and type 2 error, and type 2 error is determined from the circumstances of the situation, right? So, this alpha beta level, normally alpha is kept very small like 5%, and beta increases, like it can be 95%. Obviously, both are comprehending each other, right? And that is broadly about hypothesis testing. Share your views, and anything you are not able to understand, we will review again. The entire this phase we have learnt about FMEA, 5-wire analysis, design a small process in detail, and if you have any doubts, please let us know so that we can correct it. What is correlation, regression, and what is hypothesis testing, use regression, and then finally we have also used regression in hypothesis testing earlier. So, thanks a lot for watching, and you have completed the define, measure and analysis phase. We have two more phase to go, which is improve and control, DMAIC, right? Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next